try to be quick. I want to first start off by saying we're all professionals here. I don't pretend to know what goes on in the day-to-day world in your profession. I don't expect you to know exactly what goes on in ours in the classroom. I thought I'd come tonight to try to give you a little synopsis of a year under NJ Achieve, Teach State Danielson. Because as we see it, it's not going well. First, the purpose of evaluations. I've always been taught that the purpose of evaluations are to strengthen knowledge and skills in classroom practices. We're not against being evaluated by any means if these evaluations are used to support us. Unfortunately, I've seen so many problems this year. And honestly, in years past, but it didn't hold as much weight as it does now, so now I feel the need to present these problems to you. First of all, getting evaluated and waiting 3 months to get it back. Then when you get it back, there's no support for what they say you're lacking in. No support at all. Then you're evaluated again, and you get the same scores in the same areas. Then you're not met with to even discuss it, and then you're told, guess what? You're getting evaluated on, what's today's date? Well, you're getting evaluated on June 20th. So I don't understand how the process is meant to support us if it's done when school's already over. I'm not against being evaluated. I love the support. I love constructive criticism if it's actually used in that way. Now let's look at SGOs. So basically, as I've seen it in this first year, an SGO is when you choose 2 areas of growth that you can predict in your magic 8 ball, your children will improve it. You might teach 45 different things, but if you don't pick the right 2, you are inadequate as a teacher. Luckily, I picked one of the 2, so I'm halfly adequate, if that makes sense. But they grew in a lot of other areas that are not acknowledged because they're not part of the SGO.
Ridiculous.
The SGO narrows instruction. Anybody as smart as all these people standing behind me, if my job is on the line, I'm going to teach to those 2 areas, and my kids are going to be brilliant in those 2 areas. What happened to creativity? What happened to teaching for the love of learning? What happened to problem solving and things like that? Well, when you're forced into choosing 2 things, which some of us were, you have to teach to those 2 things. Now, let's go back to what I mentioned a couple months ago, talking about the emotional needs of our kids. Because, quite frankly, we're being evaluated on their emotional needs, and their emotional needs are still not being addressed. Why can't we come up with some way to get a grant? We can get a grant for other things to deal with the emotional needs for our kids. We don't need to put, I understand that in urban areas, we don't want to label every child special ed, and I agree 100%. Why can't there be a middle ground? I have plenty of kids in a very difficult class that emotionally could use support. Academically, they're okay, but they could be very successful if we dealt with their emotional needs. We have one guidance counselor in my school, and her magic wand only goes so far. She tries to work. I've sent at least 20 emails this year asking anyone and their mother for guidance and gotten not a response. Not to any of you on a lower level. No response. So I'm doing it on my own, which is great. I love my kids, but then I'm judged 3 times, 4 times, whatever, for 20 minutes. Why is that kid having a temper tantrum? Because that's what he does every day this time. But guess what? This afternoon, he'll be writing for you if you want to hang around. Well, I have to go. Okay, so then I'm ineffective because when you walked in, they're very territorial. They didn't want you here, and he's upset. Directives are given top-down in the district, as in most companies. However, accountability is bottom-up, and it stops with us. It feels like there's no accountability anywhere else but the people behind me. Why can't we say, we know there are schools in this district that have children with some emotional needs, and come up with a behavioral plan now for September? Let's not punish administrators for suspensions or for discipline. Give us 6 months, the kids will get on board, and then we can teach. Please. It would work. I'm sure it would work. It works other places. It could work here. I have a lot of notes, I'm sorry, as I was watching everybody tonight. I want to end on this before the time is up. I feel like I'm at the Oscars. We can teach anywhere, but not everyone can teach here. And the great Maya Angelou once said, and it's something I live by and I hope that you will as well, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Hopefully, I presented some information. You know better. Let's do better for the kids. Thank you. Have a good night.